Welcome to the One Stiletto in the Grave podcast with your hosts, Sonny Ormond and Jane James.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Bonfire Night special. It's an explosive show, dynamite to be exact. We talk bangers, hot toddies, whip wraps, toffee apples, cockatoos, and cavorting on the green. We even spend a penny for the guy. Whoopsie! Here's Janie in sparkling form. Janie James, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Sonny. How are you? Getting a bit chilly, isn't it?
It is getting a bit chilly, isn't it? It's that kind of autumnal time, isn't it? You know,
I think it's positively winter.
Well, it is a bit. The nights are drawing in, as my grandmother used to say.
Yeah, winter draws on, as mine used to say.
Get your winter drawers on, that's the thing. Have you got your thermals ready yet?
Yes. Thermals have already been employed.
Have they?
I'm a wimp. Since I moved to the south all those years ago, I've become an underwear wimp.
You
The
have.
thermals get employed earlier and earlier every year.
Now, is it top and bottom or just bottom?
It's top. I'm a top.
Top? Oh, you're just a top, not a bottom.
I'm just a top. I'm not a bottom.
Oh, that's very, very interesting, isn't it? You know, my dad, because as I said before, I'm a farmer's daughter, aren't I? And I can always remember my darling dad in his long johns. Do you remember long johns? And he would go out milking the cattle in his long johns in the winter months.
Did he not put trousers on the top of them?
Yes, he did. He had several layers, but he always had his long johns underneath. I can see them now as I speak. Anyway.
Okay, we will go into another time while you were watching your father put his underwear on. Shall we move on briskly and talk about Bonfire Night?
Well, we could, because I think that's why we're here. I think we're going to talk about Bonfire Night, won't we?
I think we probably should now. I think we probably should. And well, you've done some sterling work about Bonfire Night in Ambridge, because there's usually a bonfire, isn't there? Shockingly.
There is. And now, of course, it's on the green, isn't it? It's usually on the green. And the good folk of Ambridge bring all their bits of firewood or whatever they've got, old long johns, whatever. And they put it all, that supermarket trolleys, whatever, on the bonfire. Absolutely. But of course, it's been in various places, I think, through the years, hasn't it? I think so. From my research, apparently Grey Gables, even Brookfield, apparently at one point. I think it was 1976, I think. They had bonfires at Grey Gables. But now it is on the village green. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. I remember that, in fact, I think you mentioned that Joe said that Bonfire Night was a great night for poaching, because nobody took any notice of his gun banging away.
Yes, I was brilliant.
Because all the fireworks. So that's just something to bear in mind with food prices as they are, isn't it?
Oh, that is very true. And didn't Mike Tucker at one time, wasn't he responsible for making sure that all folk gathered all the firewood together for it? I think he was, wasn't he?
He was. I don't know who does it now that Mike Tucker's disappeared.
Maybe it's Kenton. I can imagine Kenton doing it.
Yeah, he's the kind of...
Because it's...
yeah.
It is in his interest, isn't it, really, for Bonfire Night to go well, so that, everybody will go for a drink to the bull and, and all that. And apparently, talking of the bull, the front door was damaged, apparently, by children. I think that was 1984, apparently a banger or something. Was hurled at the door of the bull. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
All this criminality in Ambridge, it's absolutely appalling. It's obviously been going on for ages. Yeah, I suppose for hospitality, if you've got a pub somewhere near an organised bonfire thing like Kenton has, it's a godsend, isn't it?
It is. A lot of hot punch or mulled wine or, on a cold bonfire night, 5th of November, yeah. You could do very well. Well, hot chocolate, yeah. But if you don't have to drive home, you could have a hot mulled wine, couldn't you? You'd be fine.
You know what? I don't normally shy away from alcohol, as you know, but I actually prefer a hot chocolate to a mulled wine.
Do you?
I don't really understand what mulled wine is, and I'm a bit suspicious of it.
I love mulled wine. In fact, I've
never
got some.
It.
Have you? Well, I've never mulled it. I buy it, love. I buy it from the stores. I've never mulled it myself. But
really?
No. But I do like a nice little glass of mulled wine. I like the aroma of it.
Oh yeah. It smells nice, doesn't it? But it's a bit like punch, isn't it? That you're never sure what you're getting.
No.
Sarah Coward, who we speak of often, made a lovely mulled wine.
Do you know, did she? I
She
don't think
did.
she ever gave me any of her mulled wine. Oh,
Well, I
gosh.
thought she did it herself, but maybe she got hers from Tesco's. I've no idea, but
Knowing
if she did,
Sarah,
I'm sure there was something a bit extra in it.
she probably, yes. Her hand probably slipped as she poured a little bit more brandy even. I don't know what she'd have put in
It's
there.
probably whiskey, wasn't it? It was usually whiskey.
Yeah, she liked a whiskey, didn't
She liked
she?
a drop of scotch, didn't she? Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like the aroma. I like the aroma of it. And you know, when I was a child, because again we lived on the farm, we used to have huge bonfires, and we would take it in turns. Either my dad would have a big bonfire party, or my aunt, Auntie Margaret, we would go to her house. We'd have a huge bonfire party, huge bonfires, because you can on a farm, you know. I mean,
I suppose so.
there's lots of stuff to throw on the bonfire. It used to be wonderful. I used to love it.
Oh. No, living in the city, we didn't have. We just had bonfire night in the back garden. So no, it was. My dad would nail some Catherine wheels to the garage door and swear when he hit his thumb.
Yes.
And there'd be the usual stuff, the rockets and all that kind of stuff. But
Roman candles. Do you
yeah.
remember the Roman candles?
oh yeah, I didn't like the bangs, you know. Didn't like the noise. I liked the pretty ones, but I didn't like the bangy ones. And that was an Ambridge thing, wasn't it? Because when Jack Woolley was having his sort of very sad journey with dementia, didn't he think that there was an air raid going on one year on Bonfire Night?
He did. And I think, was it Ed? Ed had to coax him out, I think, of the gents or something in the ball, because he thought, that's right, it was all a bit sad. And then, I think a year later, I think it was Adam's Ian, who discovered Peggy in a bit of a state because she was sort of coming to the end of her tether. And again, that was Bonfire Night, I think.
Was it?
I think again Jack had a little bit of a turn. Yeah, so it's interesting what comes up in Ambridge on Bonfire Night sometimes, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they're often the animals have a miserable time, as they do anywhere, don't they? But I know Linda's always very good at checking the fire for sleeping hedgehogs, isn't she?
She is. She's always very hot on that. And wasn't there, talking of Linda, a bit later, it could have been something like 2015, it was when Scruff disappeared. Do you remember all that? And they thought that he could have ended up in the bonfire. He didn't. But I do remember there was a bit of drama about all that.
There was a bit of drama about that. Yeah, and also Hilary Noakes's cockatoo, which... yeah, you always think, is that a euphemism? But did she not raise an official complaint with the parish council?
She did.
That a cockatoo got frightened.
Yeah, started squawking.
I don't know. How do you know if a cockatoo is traumatised?
I don't know. Well, I suppose it was flap and shit itself. I mean, I've no idea what it would do, darling, but I can only imagine something like that would happen. A lot of squawking, a lot of poo.
It is a cockatoo, not a cockapoo, is it?
Well, it probably is a cockapoo now.
Well, it's a cockapoo
after it was
now.
terrified. Do you know, I always wanted Lillian to have a cockapoo. I mean, I love Ruby. I love her. She's a lovely little terrier, but I would love to have had a cockapoo. But anyway, never mind. Maybe another time Lillian will have a little cockapoo. But yes, no, Hilary's was the cockatoo. Yes.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I mean... I don't, as you know, I don't have animals anymore apart from the koi carp, who don't really give a toss about Bonfire Night. But
how do you know they might? Have you asked them?
Well, again, I've no idea how traumatised, how to tell if a koi carp is traumatised, really. And they're sort of hibernating during the winter anyway. So, plus we don't have. I mean, nobody has fireworks in the back garden anymore, do they?
No, I suppose they don't. I mean, when we were young, you could get fireworks anywhere, couldn't you? I remember it used to. Do you remember it was the standard fireworks? They're called standard fireworks. Do you remember? And you could get them anywhere. Any shop sold them. Thank goodness now, you know.
And sold them to people of any age. So
Indeed.
we used to buy them when we were quite little kids.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and all different sizes. There used to be a very tiny little boxes, and then very huge boxes.
Well, they had those special display units as well. They used to bring out, didn't they? Because you could, like, sort of pick and mix. So you could buy a Roman candle and a Catherine wheel and a packet of bangers or whatever, and they'd have those. Am I making this up? they had these sort of display units with a lid that you'd lift up and...
You're right. They did. Absolutely
Yeah.
they did. I
Yeah.
can remember them really, really clearly. And even in our little corner shop in Macclesfield, and it was a tiny, tiny little shop. My mother used to get her weekly order from there in days before supermarkets. And he used to have this little display, come bonfire night. He'd create a little corner in the shop. I can see it now, my mind's eye, yeah. And as you say, anybody, any age, they would be sold the fireworks to. And of course there were accidents. There still are accidents, aren't there? But even more. And I can remember at the bonfire parties I was talking about earlier. Do you remember those thing called rip wraps? They were rip wraps. Well, they were sort of, maybe it was just where we were, but they I don't know quite how they were let off. But you would light them, and they would be thrown at people's feet.
Oh, yeah.
And they would kind of rip wrap round, round, and you'd be jumping over. I mean, talk about dangerous. But yeah, they were called rip wraps.
Oh, we did have those. And I remember them being hurled at me by naughty boys. But I can't think what we called them. I thought they're called jumping jacks or something like that.
Well, maybe different places they were, you probably jumping jacks where you are, rip wraps where we are. But it's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They were horrible. I've never seen them since. I'm sure that they're not sold anymore.
No.
One of the many things that the state has decided we shouldn't have access to, and a jolly good thing too.
Well,
yeah, it was a
absolutely.
terribly, terribly busy time of year, wasn't it? Because people did. You remember your dad. It was never mums in my day. Your dad would stick a rocket in a milk bottle and set fire to it, and the milk bottle would fall over, and the rocket would go up somebody's trouser leg or whatever. Well, never. Actually, I didn't ever see it go up someone's trouser leg. But there were lots of accidents like that with rockets going off in the wrong direction.
There were.
Um,
And I can remember really strict instructions. You're absolutely right. It would be Dad or somebody like that, would put the rocket in the bottle, light it, and you were told in no uncertain terms, stay up there, keep back, and then the thing would roar into the air, wouldn't it? Yeah. And son Jake reminded me of an occasion I'd forgotten about it, but with Nana, when I think probably he was about 7 or something, and I'd forgotten all about it, but somehow this firework jumped back into the kitchen, because we've got a little breakfast room, and it's got French windows, and we were looking out into the garden, and somehow this firework jumped back into the house and landed on the sofa next to Nana. She was all right, we were okay, but that was a moment. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I know. You had to be very careful with them.
You did. Yeah, we had a nasty moment when Nick bought. They started at one point, for just a few years I think, to allow you to buy those very big fireworks that they have in displays, and he was desperate. So the kids were little, so I said, all right, well, you just get one. And this was like the highlight of the evening. He bought the box of standard fireworks. Auntie Heather was over, and he decided to let this thing off as the sort of great climax of the evening. Well, Auntie Heather and the kids and I retreated into the house and looked through the window, and he kind of read all the instructions very carefully, because he's a very, very careful man. And this thing was meant to sort of go like miles up into the sky and then burst into, sort of explode into stars and stripes. I don't know what, something absolutely incredible. Anyway, he set fire to it, and it started its journey, and then we heard a funny noise, and then at the front of the house we had a load of car alarms go off. It's like, uh-oh. Well, what had happened was, what he hadn't realised is that it was actually wrapped in cellophane that you were meant to remove.
Oh, goodness.
So the cellophane had contained the explosion. It got sort of like at house level, thank God. And then the cellophane had contained the explosion. It kind of went over the house, and luckily landed in the middle of the road and not on top of somebody's car. And luckily there was nobody driving past or walking past at the time.
Gosh.
But yes, apparently there was a fantastic display in the middle of the road, but we were too busy going, what's going on, to realise what was happening. And this lovely chorus of car alarms.
Oh my goodness gracious. What, wasn't that lucky though, that nobody was either walking past or driving past?
I know.
Poor
He's never had
Nick.
another one since. I know.
Oh dear.
He was
Oh my
mortified
goodness.
because he's terribly, terribly clever, terribly clever at this stuff, and very, very careful.
I
But
know.
it just looked like, they often do have cellophane and things around them, don't they? So he was, he's
poor
been so,
Nick.
so careful.
Oh gosh, so he must have sprinted from the garden to the
Yeah.
front of the house, praying that nothing
Really
terrible
did.
had happened.
Really, really did.
My goodness. So he never tried that again,
Never
then,
tried that
presumably.
again.
Once was
No.
quite enough.
Once was enough.
Gosh. Oh, but I can always remember as well, you know, you the next morning or something, you'd go into the garden and there'd all be all these discarded fireworks all around the garden, you know, that you and I remember my father saying, be very careful though when you pick them up, you've got to make sure
because they might have gone off.
Yes,
that's right, because people did get badly injured, didn't they, by picking up ones that they thought had gone off and they hadn't. And there was that smell of fireworks kind of lingered for days, didn't it?
That's right. It absolutely did. And also the smell of the evening air the night before when you were letting the fireworks off. Do you remember all that? And that sort of cold kind of autumnal air. It's rather nice. And we used to have treacle toffee. Did you have treacle toffee?
We had toffee apples.
Toffee apples, did you? Gosh, yes. We used to have treacle toffee. We used to have parkin. Which did you have that?
No, because I'm from the Midlands, so parkin, is that like a gingerbready, cheekily gingerbready thing?
It is, yeah. I think it's Yorkshire parkin. So maybe because I come from Cheshire, it was, we definitely had parkin. And we had potatoes, baked potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
But toffee apples, no, we didn't have toffee apples, actually. That would have been quite nice to have toffee apples, that's for sure.
Yep, toffee apples, baked potatoes. I kind of like the food better than the fireworks, if I'm honest.
I'm not sure I did. Oh, did you like sparklers?
I could just about manage a sparkler. Like I said, I was incredibly wet, but I could just about manage a sparkler without having a nervous breakdown. I like writing my name with a sparkler. I still do quite like that, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did your girls like fireworks time? Did they brave?
No, one did, one didn't. One didn't like the noise. So, we take them to the sort of local park for the firework display once those all started happening. I don't quite know what the turning point was when it became more difficult to buy fireworks in the shops and the sort of council and other displays started. But yeah, we take them to that. One of them didn't like the bangs. Actually, I think most small children don't like the bangs, do they?
No, I don't think so. But you're probably right. That was when people became more mindful of the danger of fireworks, and you couldn't buy them as you could before. Yes, these huge bonfire parties started, and I can remember we used to go to one quite close to us, and it was lovely actually. I mean, huge bonfire, and you knew it was controlled. That was the thing, and people were letting fireworks off, and it was all very controlled. It was nice and jolly because it was a community event as well, Yeah, but I mean, some places, Janie, I think they have huge processions, don't they? I mean, today on Bonfire Night, it's a really, really big deal. I think, I forget now, somewhere down in Kent, I think they have it's Edenbridge, that's right, and they have a 30-foot guy every year. Yeah, I don't know how they manage it, but apparently they're very famous for their 30-foot guy.
And does that get put on top of a bonfire?
Yeah, but apparently. I mean, how'd they get it up there? You need a crane,
Was this the place, there was a bit of controversy, wasn't there, about the one year, did the guy look a bit like Donald Trump or something? Wasn't that?
Yes.
Was that in Ambridge? I don't know.
Well, no, I think we did have something in Ambridge, didn't we, one year? I think it was to do with Kenton and David. And did the guy? I think it possibly looked a bit like Justin Elliott. I think. I think it's years ago now, and I should know, shouldn't I? Really, but it might have been even before Justin and Lillian got together. But I sort of, in the recess of my mind, because he was always causing a bit of problem in the early days, Justin. Anyway, but yeah. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Perhaps the listeners can contact us if they've got better memories than us, which wouldn't be difficult. Let's be honest.
It would not be difficult at all.
No.
It would. Oh yes.
Slow me down. No, I used to live not far from not Budley Sutton. What am I talking about? What's the place in Devon where they stick tar barrels? Ottery, isn't it?
Oh yes.
Ottery St Mary.
Ottery St Mary. Yeah.
Tar barrels on the back. That's bonkers. So. People, men, women and children, I think children don't have, that's slightly different, have sort of like flaming tar barrels on their backs and just sort of run through the streets. It's what passed for entertainment, really.
Do they pass them to each other when their backs get a bit hot? Do they go, here you have it? No.
I don't quite know how the mechanics of it works.
So do then throw it on? Yeah, go on.
Well, I just remember going and seeing it and thinking, even as a sort of callow youth, thinking that doesn't look frightfully safe to me. But it's been going on for donkey's years. And
so what do they do, Jenny? Do they then throw them on the bonfire? Is that the idea? I
don't know what I just witnessed them. I think in my mind's eye I could just see them running down the street, and I think at that point I went into the pub because it was safer.
Absolutely. And then you heard the fire engines and ambulances coming along, but burning men, the smell of charred flesh.
Makes you wonder how it started, doesn't it? Again,
It
probably
does.
somebody knows. But yeah,
I know.
Ottery St Mary. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a small place to have such a complicated thing. And they do something weird in Lewis as well, don't they? Because both my daughters live near there now.
Yeah, I think it's a very huge procession, isn't it? And a huge bonfire, I think. I think that's been going for centuries, apparently, there. Yeah, I mean, and apparently I was reading the other day that there is an immersive experience in the Tower of London. There's a gunpowder plot immersive experience in the Tower of London. No, I'm not. I read that the other day. I thought that might be quite interesting, really.
So I wonder what that involves then.
I can't imagine being blown up, I guess.
Well, I mean, the experience wasn't very nice, was it? I mean,
No.
The experience basically was a load of fireworks or a load of explosives
Gunpowder, yeah.
being
Yeah,
bombed.
and apparently, I think there was something like 36 barrels of gunpowder with Guy Fawkes down there in the bowels of the Houses of Parliament. Yeah, but of course he was betrayed. But yeah, there were 36 barrels. I mean, they were determined. They meant business. And of course they were betrayed, and then they were hung, drawn, and quartered.
Oh God, that was a terrible, dreadful death, wasn't it? Absolutely appalling. And I'm sure that they were roughed up a bit in the
I should
meantime.
imagine. Certainly a poor old Guy Fawkes, I'm sure. I think there were 13 of them altogether,
Yeah,
but of course
Catesby, wasn't there? Robert Catesby.
Yeah, I think he was the head honcho, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But it was it was Guy Fawkes who was supposed to ignite it all. But which is why, of course, we have Guy Fawkes, on the top of the bonfires. And apparently, the reason we have the bonfire is because James I was so pleased that he wasn't blown up in the House of Parliament that he then said, right, all around the country now we'll have bonfires to celebrate the fact that I'm still on the throne, I've not been blown up. And it happened quite quickly, apparently.
Oh, I see.
On 5th of November. So that's how it all began.
So that's why we do it now. And that was, and it was the reason that he escaped specifically. The reason they were after him there was it was the state opening of Parliament. Is that right?
That's right.
1605.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I say 1605 casually, like I know that, but it's actually because you told me that and I've written it down. Yeah. And it was on the 5th of November, which you haven't written down, but I could figure that out for myself. Yeah. And that was all about getting rid of a Protestant monarch. And I think they wanted to put his daughter on the throne, didn't they? She was only little, 8 or 9 or something, and then bring her up as a Catholic.
Absolutely.
So to restore a Catholic monarchy. Yeah. Well.
But they were foiled. They were absolutely foiled. But and apparently now, each year before the state opening of Parliament, they do go into the cellars. It's become a tradition to check that there isn't a Guy Fawkes down there. Yeah. So that's quite an interesting tradition. But apparently they do it before the state opening every year.
That's fascinating, isn't it, to think?
But if it had worked, if they got away with it, if they hadn't been betrayed, history could have taken a very different course, couldn't it?
That would have been very, very different. And it's just so fascinating, isn't it, that that's, 500 years ago?
Yeah.
400 years ago? I can't do my maths.
No, I can't. I'm going, I have no idea. But
a long time ago.
A few centuries ago.
But because we like fires and explosives, the tradition's lasted all these years.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's a big community event, isn't it? So it's kind of not surprising that it has withstood the test of time. But it's a big thing, isn't it? Big thing, bonfire night still. But of course, the poor old animals, they do suffer, don't they?
Yeah.
And I was
how are your dogs bonfire night?
These two that we've got are fine. That they don't mind at all. But in the past, we certainly have. We had a lovely dog called Matthew, bless his heart. He was part sheepdog and part Alsatian, and he used to get really terrified. And you did worry about them. He would sort of try and get under the stairs or behind the sofa or wherever. But these two are okay. But I know a dear friend of ours, in fact, I was talking to her the other week, that her dogs, one particularly, gets absolutely terrified. And her daughter is actually a vet, and they're going to give, the dog something a couple of days before to really calm it, because she goes ballistic, and you worry they're going to have a heart attack or something, don't you?
Yeah.
but there's nothing you can do about it. I did read somewhere that there are silent firework displays. Now, how that quite works, because of the animal thing, how that quite works, I'm not really sure. I don't think they can be completely silent fireworks, but maybe they're much reduced in their...
I think that would be amazing. So instead of... I'm sure that could happen, because I'm sure that the chemicals that they mix up to make fireworks, some of them include stuff to make them extra loud, don't they? Because they're not all loud.
No.
So I think that would be beautiful to have a firework display that was... Because it's pretty.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's very, very pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do like sort of looking out of the window and watching.
Oh, yeah. It can be quite magnificent, and huge firework displays are really, really terrific, aren't they?
Yeah. They're very, very entertaining. But I think it'd be great to have them without the noise.
Yeah, it would, and that would. How about you? Because you had cats. Did they used to get terrified?
I bloody hated it, and because they're a bit dim, their go-to place when they felt frightened about anything was to go into the garden and hide, which of course didn't work terribly well on bonfire night, because it was even worse out there. So we'd try and keep them in, but the difficulty is it's not just the one night, is it? People have fireworks, tend to have them for a few days before. If bonfire night's not at the weekend, then if it's on then people it's sorry, I've gone a bit there, haven't I? If bonfire night is not at the weekend, then it's just spread out over a number of days. So
absolutely.
Yeah, no, the cats absolutely already hated it. Absolutely hated it. As I'm sure do people with young babies who are trying to get them off to sleep.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. No, it can be awful, and I think certainly if you've got animals that are terrified, I think because you don't know what to do with them, do you? You can't unless you give them drugs to calm them down. It's really it's fairly stressful. Maybe we should have some drugs as well on bonfire night. Maybe that would make us feel better.
Or all year.
Or all year. Or all year.
I think I need them for Christmas, actually.
Drugs for Christmas. Yeah. Which is round the corner. Christmas is round the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, you've really cheered me up there.
Oh, sorry, darling.
No.
So are you going to be celebrating this year then?
What, the old bonfire night?
Yeah.
No. No, we're not. We're not. No, there is a display which is slightly too far away to walk.
Right.
So, and I know that car park at there's going to get round. So if it were walkable, we'd walk to see it, I think. But it's just a bit too far. And it's a bit nippy out, isn't it?
What about your lovely little grandchildren? I mean, are there plans for them? Do you know?
Well, they're in bed by 7, so
right.
It's I'm sure that they'll have something, kind of at tea time, even if it's only a packet of sparklers.
Yeah,
But I think it's not really for little children, is it? It's for bigger children, really, and it does seem to be something that's, in my experience, appeals more to boys than girls.
Yes, possibly. Although I did used to enjoy, but maybe that was to do with these huge bonfire parties. That it was a family occasion. We had quite a big family, particularly on my dad's side, and so it used to be.
And
lovely,
if you've got the space for it, and you're not kind of looking at the fence and the neighbour's shed and thinking, is the wind going to blow in the wrong direction and take this down? Then I can see that that's a lot of fun, because you are basically doing the same sort of thing as a public firework thing, aren't you, in the middle of nowhere? So I can see that would be terrific fun. No, like I said, I preferred the food, really. So I will be honouring bonfire night by having jacket potatoes, a toffee apple if I can get my hands on one, and hot chocolate with maybe just a little bit of something laced into it.
Yes. Well, I might get myself a bit of treacle toffee, as long as it won't bring me fillings out, and bit of parking, because I do like a bit of parking. And I do. And maybe a bit of mulled wine. I think that would be quite nice. It's a nice way to spend the evening, isn't it? A packet of sparklers, that would be fine for me. Yeah.
Marvellous.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, that's our plans set for
that's
bonfire
it
night
then. That's it then. Well, I think that's it. Look, I don't know what's going to be happening, of course, in Ambridge. I have no idea, but I'm sure something will be happening in Ambridge on bonfire night, because it always does, doesn't it?
It does. Well, we shall eagerly await what's gonna
Yes.
happen, and hope that it doesn't involve the fire brigade or the emergency services in any sense at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tip
Or
top.
Kenton with his hose. Yes. Kenton with his hose. Always just
Kenton
liked
with
a bit
very
old.
long hose.
Yes, a very, very long hose indeed. Well,
Right, our producer's holding up a bit of paper that I can't read, so I think it probably says, "For God's sake, shut up."
shut up. We've had enough of Bonfire.
Yeah, enough of this rubbish. So,
yeah, indeed.
so we'll
and
say
did you
goodbye.
know? Well, you probably did because you were very enlightened and educated. But I didn't know this. It was the Chinese that invented fireworks. I didn't know they came from China originally, centuries ago, of course.
Well, there you go, and they probably
Well,
still
there you
come
go.
from China now.
They probably do. Ta-ra!
All right, Ducky, take care.
Yeah.
Bye
lots of
now.
love. Bye. Thanks for listening to our One Stiletto in the Grave podcast. If you'd like to see behind-the-scenes clips and bonus content, please visit our Facebook page, One Stiletto in the Grave podcast. And if you'd like to ask any questions, follow us on Twitter at OneStiletto65. This podcast is produced by Raggedy House Productions and the music composed by Tom Smith. See you next time!